was that? Yeah. Yeah, today I'm talking about designing. So what? So, you think I should what? You think I should design a cashmere dog bed with snack pockets all the way around? Well, no. Look, here's the thing. Yes, cashmere is very soft and comfortable. Yes, I agree. However, it's pretty expensive, and you'd ruin it. What? No, of course I love you. You're my dog. Yeah. Are you worth it? Well, I don't know. Jury's still out on that one. Look, we'll talk about this later. You are probably not getting a cashmere dog bed. I'm just going to say that right now. We'll have this discussion later. People are waiting for me. I gotta go. Hi! Hello, how are you? Hello and welcome, or welcome back, to Nicole Knits Under the Influence. This is episode 2, Concoctions on Ice. And I am Nicole, and I'm coming to you from beautiful North Saanich, British Columbia, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from Victoria, British Columbia, which is the capital of our great province, our beautiful province. So I live here with my husband equivalent, he who shall not be named, and our delightful-ish rescue Dachshund Jack Russell Terrier named Oscar, who's just over there. Yeah, never mind. Today, we are going to take a look at several projects that are my own design, and we're going to talk about why or why not haven't I written them up into a published pattern. So, lots of reasons. Some of them good, some of them, yeah, could probably be talked out of. Anyway, cheers, and happy to have you here. Good martini. Now, before I start, I need to humbly and shamefully correct something from my last episode. I told you in my last episode that he who shall not be named told terrifically terrible dad jokes and puns. True. Then I told you that if he ever told a good one, I'd let you know. It hadn't happened yet. Now, that was not true. That was me being funny. I kind of thought it was hilarious, but he who shall not be named did not think it was so hilarious. And I'm just here to set the record straight. Not true. He does tell funny jokes and funny puns. The only, and you know, we spend a lot of time around here laughing our heads off. We have a good time. He makes me laugh. I wouldn't be here decades later if that wasn't the case. However, the thing is that the ratio of good, funny jokes and puns to terrible jokes and puns is about, about maybe 80-20, to be generous, maybe 75-25. So it's like I've got to sit through a lot of, I got to kiss a lot of frogs before I get to that prince of a joke. That's the thing. He believes more in quantity than quality, and occasionally a quality one gets through there. Anyway, I can't go down that road again. I'm apologizing and saying I'm sorry. Sweetie, I love you. You're a wonderful person. You're hilarious, and yeah, love you dearly. So I take it back. That's it. Okay, let's move on. Now, we're here today to talk about things that I have designed. I have quite a stack of them here that have never been written up into patterns for various reasons. And I have reasons. And, I'd say don't judge me, but you're going to judge me. So, and you're going to have your own opinions. And you can share them with me in the comments if you want. I'm good with that. I'd like to know, actually. I probably need a kick in the pants in some cases. So, first things first. I am wearing a sweater the only sweater I've designed so far, at least to completion. And that's the thing. I'm gonna start with projects that I have completed. I've worked on from start to finish. They're done. In some cases, I have almost a pattern written up and just haven't gotten quite there yet. So we're going to start with those, and if there's time, we'll move on to projects that that I started designing and kind of put aside for reasons, again, reasons, for this, that, and the other thing. So we're starting with this. This on Ravelry, I knit this about 3 years ago. On Ravelry, I just call it my Deco pullover because it's kind of Art Deco. I did create this motif. It's my own motif. I created it based on a bit of Art Deco art that I found online, and turned it into a knitting chart. So that's part's my own. The rest of the sweater is done using Tin Can Knits Strange Brew colorwork yoke recipe. Strange Brew is a book that Tin Can Knits, and if you don't know about Tin Can Knits, okay, let me tell you. Okay, look, people, if you're a new knitter, get your butt online and check out Tin Can Knits. I'll put the link down below so you can check it out. You really need to go look at it because they have, well, first of all, they're amazing designers. One of them lives in the Lower Mainland, the other one lives in Scotland, and they paired up somehow. Tin Can is a reference to them communicating with each other from between the continents. If you can imagine the string and the tin cans. Cute, right? So cute. Anyway, they are delightful. They are incredible designers. They have dozens and dozens and dozens of fantastic designs, and they have a complete package of tutorials, including all kinds of stuff for beginners. So you can, like, right from this should be your first project, start with this one, free pattern, tutorials, go for it, and then build your way up to more challenging things, socks, hats, sweaters, your first sweater, all kinds of stuff. Like, they're amazing. Anyway, I'm digressing as I am wont to do, as you know already. So, Tin Can Knits. In 2018, they came out with this book, Strange Brew. Whoops. Okay, never mind. That's gone. And what Strange Brew is a book that gives you recipes for knitting circular yoke sweaters that are kind of plug and play. It gives you the framework for a circular yoke sweater, and you can choose whether you want to knit it top down or bottom up. You can choose what weight you want to do, whether you want to do Aran, DK, or sock weight, aka fingering weight. And you can choose what kind of design you want to do. They give you a whole pattern, pages and pages and pages of suggested lovely little stranded knitting patterns, or you can design your own. So I decided I wanted to design my own. I thought this was a great opportunity to use a framework that already existed and apply my own things to it, which was entirely part of why they made this book. And so I decided to do the wedge design method. This is the wedge design method, which means that I designed, let's see, from here. So it starts up here narrow at the neck, and then it comes out like this and down like this. So there's a wedge that repeats around the neckline. So the circular yoke part of the sweater is my design. But the base of the sweater, so the actual sweater itself, never mind what's on the yoke, is Tin Can Knits. They did the math. They worked out the grading for all of these weights of yarn. They worked out the sizing for like 20 million sizes, which is what Tin Can Knits does. They are extremely size inclusive. They'll, you know, most of their designs are, you can knit it from a newborn baby right up to, you know, a very, very, very large size. So it's great, which is fantastic. I mean, it definitely is a thing these days with size inclusivity, which is great. I think it's something that designers do need to focus on, even if it means sometimes you design something that you can't publish because you can't grade it into enough sizes. And that happens. There's occasionally just something about the design, a stitch pattern or a count or a method or technique or something that does not lend itself to being graded up and down the way you'd want to, in a way that makes it usable for people in a pattern that isn't 27 pages long. That kind of thing happens. So anyway, I just want you to understand that about designing. Like, it's, as you're going to find out as we go along here today, it's way more complex than you might think it is. I have huge respect for designers, especially the ones who seem to spit out a new design every couple of weeks. It just boggles my mind. They're unbelievable. So anyway, the thing is, if I were, because this isn't my sweater, it's just my yoke. If I wanted to write this up as a pattern that I was going to publish and sell, so other people could knit it, I need to effectively start from scratch with the sweater design, you know, the silhouette, and create my own top-down circular yoke sweater, using my own stitch counts, neckline, sleeve lengths, grading, which is a whole thing in itself. And not that all of that isn't doable, it is, but it takes a lot of time. And then you have to have somebody test every size and make sure your math is working out and that everything fits properly and looks okay. And so it's all very labor intensive, time intensive. It's a lot. And frankly, it's like, you know, maybe I just would rather spend that time knitting. I mean, I do have 2 day jobs, so it's not like I can sit around all day knitting. I just can't. So anyway, that's, you know, it's a barrier. Now, I could, if I wanted to, pay somebody to write up this pattern for me and grade it to all the sizes and tech edit it and send it out to testers and do all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. So if I'm going to charge, you know, $7 to $10 for this pattern, I would have to sell hundreds of these patterns before I'm even breaking even, if I'm hiring somebody to do that stuff. And not that, you know, the be all end all of this for me is money, but it's like, I got to think about that. Like, I really would have to think about whether or not that's worth it. So it really makes more sense, financially, especially, for me to do it myself. And it would just take quite a bit of, I don't know if tenacity is the right word, dedication on my part to put down the actual knitting and do that work, do the technical work, and write up that design. So there you go. That's an excuse. It's a pretty big one, and it's why this sweater has not been written up into a pattern, even though I have been asked to have it written up into a pattern. So let me know what you think. You know, maybe I'm making things up that don't exist. Maybe it would all be worth it in the end. I mean, once the pattern's written, it's written, and it's out there, and people can buy it. So we'll see. Anyway, let's move along because I have more things. So there's that. There's my Deco pullover. Now, while we're talking about Deco, 4 years ago, back in the olden days, I designed this cowl. this cowl this was my very first prototype of my Mosaic deco. This is stranded knit, so this is carrying floats across the back. You're working with 2 colors on each row, knitting a few of one color, knitting a few of another color, and carrying the floats in behind. Stranded knitting. This is Mosaic colorwork. Mosaic, you're only ever using 1 color per row or round at a time. Makes very fancy looking color work, but much easier, in my opinion. It's much easier to do Mosaic color work than stranded knitting and have it come out pretty much exactly perfect all the way around with even stitches, not having to worry about pulling or stretching or any of that kind of business that can happen with stranded knitting. So this was my first prototype, Aran Weight. The patterns that you see here, the Mosaic patterns you see here, are ones that I found in a stitch dictionary by Barbara Walker. Now, Barbara Walker has, I'm going to put this down for a sec, we'll come back to this, I have a lot of these, has a series of stitch dictionaries, and for you muggles, stitch dictionaries are books that have all kinds of knitting stitches in them, just the stitches with the instructions for how to do that stitch and some pictures. Later on in Barbara Walker's later versions, she put charts in them. The first ones didn't even have charts, just a photograph. Like here's her first one. All you get is a photograph and a bunch of written instructions about how to do that particular stitch pattern. Barbara Walker started making these in 1968, and she has four, that's 4. So, treasury of knitting patterns, a second treasury of knitting patterns that's a little bit thicker, and a third treasury of knitting patterns with charts, which is nice. Now you can see that I love these. I have thumbed through these for hours and picked out and marked lots of different stitches that I would like to use in different designs. And there's also one that she did entirely for mosaic knitting. Way before everybody started doing mosaic knitting, Barbara Walker did this book of mosaic knitting. Anyway, I found these charts, so this chart right here and this checkerboard chart on the side, in one of Barbara Walker's books. I can't remember which one. This will be relevant in a minute. So, this was my prototype. Then I decided I wanted to do it again in a lighter weight. So I did it a second time in a DK. This right here, this is DK weight. This is Color Adventures yarn from A Twist of Yarn in Vernon, BC, which is in the Okanagan. They do their own dyeing, and their brand is called Color Adventures. Beautiful yarn. This is a merino cashmere blend. Isn't that pretty? The colors are gorgeous. The yarn is squishy and yummy and nice. I'll just put this on because you'll see why in a sec. Right? Notice anything? Notice how it's almost the same as this, with the gray and the dark purple and the gray and the dark purple. Yeah, I know. Something was going on a year or two ago that had me like doing stuff in these colors. Anyway, so this kind of cowl is just a straight up, knit in a loop, cast on in the round, knit straight up in the round like a straight column for as deep as you want it, and bind off. That's what this is. And it's okay. There are literally hundreds of thousands of these cowls of this design, not this exact design, but of this style, available on Ravelry for you to knit. Tons of them. And it's all right, but when I put it on, and I have this issue, I have the same issue with shawls. I can't figure out how to wear them in a way that I like, that makes me feel like I'm really showing off the knitting, that it stays in place, that it looks really good. to me, it just like kind of flops down and looks a little sloppy. It looks really good when you do this. But after that, you know, it just kind of hangs here. So, you know, I've taken pictures of it folded up like this, so it looks a bit better. It just, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I knit this one. I was happy with it. What I did here, because this is a lighter weight yarn, so this is Aran weight. This is kind of heavy, knit like on a 5.5 millimeter needle. On Mosaic, you use a slightly bigger needle than you normally would. And this is DK weight, so it's like 2 weights down from Aran. And so I added a third, you can see, checkerboard, radial, checkerboard, radial, checkerboard. I added a third checkerboard in the middle to make this a bit wider. Okay, and I like that. I thought it looked pretty good. Took some fiddling around to get everything to work out. Because you can see I'm working with like, I forget how many stitches this is across, but it's a lot. It's like 50 something. This pattern is wide. It's a really wide repeat, and so finding something that would work within that repeat, anyway, I had to add a line around to make it work. Yeah, designing is hard, people. It's hard. It takes work. You got to figure things out. Then I decided to do another version of it, so I got this very lush and luxe, it's another DK, but it knits up differently than this DK. Okay, people, listen. Here's a lesson for you. Pay attention now, because these are both DK yarns, and they're both merino cashmere blends. However, this one knit up bigger than this one. It's bigger. Can you see that? See how it's bigger? I'm holding them the same height at the top. It's bigger at the bottom. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about subbing yarns, which is substituting one yarn for another when you're doing a pattern. Just because they're both DK weight does not mean they're going to knit up the same, even the same fiber content. Okay, although this is Northlight Fibers, Water Street, 60% merino, 40% cashmere, lush. Sadly, Northlight Fibers, which was a micro mill on Block Island off Rhode Island on the east coast of the United States, they recently, like just this year, shut down their mill. It's very sad. So they're not making yarn anymore. You can still get their yarn, a little bit of it, like what they have left, but you have to go to their website to find that out. I'll see if I can put the link to their website, if I remember, in the show notes, if you want to go check it out. Anyway, this is lovely lush yarn, and this is quite a nice version of that. Then I knit it again, just testing out my pattern, making sure it was working. This time in a cotton and silk blend. This is Summer Silk by Berroco in navy and white. I really wanted to see what a high contrast looked like. How's this? I'll hold that up. Cool, hey? Isn't that neat? You really get the graphic effect of it there. Lovely, but still, like, I just couldn't get happy about wearing it, and like, it gets lost, right? When it's just kind of scrunched up around my neck, the cool design just kind of gets lost. Anyway, then what happened was last Christmas, I got an advent box that was a collaboration between Jamie Lomax of Pacific Knit Company. I'll put the link down below. I'm not sure that's 100% right. And West Coast Yarn Co. here, who is a local dyer to where I am, local. And she dyes beautiful yarns. I think I talked about her last week. Anyway, they did a collab on an advent box to make this infinity cowl. This was the first time I had knit an infinity cowl. Now, an infinity cowl is knitting a tube, right? So it's both sides. It's a tube. It's a tube that's then grafted together into another tube. So a tube that becomes a tube that becomes a tube that becomes a tube. You can even twist it before you graft it if you want and put like a twist into it. Anyway, what it means is it's double thick, double the thickness of this. So when you put it on, it is squishy and delicious and sits up like this. So it doesn't just kind of scrunch down and disappear. It has some body that means that you get to actually see more of the design, and it's also warmer and snugglier and all that. So I love this. Like, I absolutely loved this cowl when I finished knitting it. So I thought, hey, what if I took my Mosaic cowl design and turned it into an infinity cowl? So I did. So here's my prototype, and this is, whoops, holding that the wrong way. There we go, right there. This is yarn I got from West Coast Yarn Company, right there. Beautiful DK yarn, gorgeous merino, hand dyed, so classy. And this is Shadow, and unfortunately I can't remember the name of the orangey color, but it'll be on my Ravelry post if you want to go check it out there. I will put the link below. And so this is also Mosaic. Now this isn't garter stitch Mosaic like this one is, where you knit around in the round to do garter stitch. You knit around, purl around, knit around, purl around. That gives you garter in Mosaic. On this, you knit every round in the round, still doing the same slip stitch technique. So this is still only ever working with one color at a time to get this very cool graphic design in your infinity cowl. So now, when I put this on, oh, I'm sure I'm totally messing up my hair. Whatever. You see the difference? Like, it's a little bit smaller. Now you could add more repeats and make this bigger if you wanted to, but it's quite cozy and small, but you actually get to see more of the design. It doesn't get lost as soon as it goes on my neck. So I was quite happy with this. Thought this was working, and I thought I would do a sample with higher contrast. So I got some, and while I'm doing higher contrast, I'll try a different fiber as well, because why not? I think it's kind of cool to have samples in different fibers. So this is a Diamond Luxury Collection Mulberry Linen, and this is 50% alpaca and then 25 silk, 25 linen. Such a nice blend. Oof, oof, such a nice blend. See, okay, I'll hold this up a little closer so you can see what that looks like. Yeah, pretty good, hey? Nice. It's coming along nicely. Yeah, so I wanted to try that out, and then I've really almost got this pattern written up, because I really was using my Stitchmastery charting and writing everything down and getting all the instructions, once I had this sample done, I was gonna like finish the pattern and send it out to testers. And then this happened. So I'm gonna lean over this way. Look up here. This is a recent version, what do you call it? Issue of Interweave Knits. And somebody else discovered Barbara Walker's stitch patterns. And they took this part, this same stitch pattern I'm using here, and turned it into this beautiful sweater, which, good on them. Like, why not? But for me, it's like, oh no, because now I'm kicking myself. So like I could have completed this and published it 4 years ago and there would be no issue. But now there's this beautiful sweater that's all over the cover of Interweave and all over their website and everywhere, and everyone's seen it. If I publish this, which looks very much the same, guess what people are going to think? They're going to think I copied it. And I, not for a second do I think that the person who, even though I've had this up on my Ravelry page, like who looks at my Ravelry page, right? Especially when it's not linked to a pattern, it's just my own design sitting on my Ravelry page. Well, surely they didn't see it. So I know for sure that what they did was they used one of the same stitch dictionaries I have, and they took that pattern and turned it into a sweater, which is, as I said, fantastic. And I love the sweater. I'm tempted to knit it because I love it, because obviously I love it. But what it means now is I'm a little conflicted about finishing and doing this pattern. Now, in this variation, it looks a little more different here. Oh, and I also just wanted to say, like, the same thing with this checkerboard chart here. Andrea Mowry, you can see right here, designed a cowl using this same checkerboard pattern. She varied it a little bit. She did that angled thing and changed the colors halfway through, which makes it like extra cool, but it's still the same mosaic checkerboard pattern that's here. So I'm just saying that, you know, designers will use these stitch patterns and they will show up in the same stitch will show up in different designs. It doesn't mean people are copying each other. It just, you know, it's where the resource is coming from. Anyway, it's just making me hesitate a little bit now because I feel like maybe I don't know, maybe I just need to wait a little bit before, like, until the next issue of Interweave comes out, so that pattern isn't everywhere while I'm trying to promote this one, which is looking very much the same. I don't want to start any trouble. I don't want to be one of those. I don't want to be the subject of a post on copying. I don't want to be accused of anything. I don't want to have to explain myself. I don't want to, you know, have to go through saying, well, I designed this, you know, 4 years ago. I was the first one. I don't want to go there. You get it, right? So, you know, 5, 6 versions later, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I'm going to do about this. Anyway, that's that one. Now, another one that I knit, oh, I put it away, hang on, sorry, it's right behind me, is another design I did this year was because of an advent box that I got last December from Baaad Anna's. That's Baaad, Baaad Anna's in Vancouver, yarn store in Vancouver, fantastic yarn store in Vancouver. They do the most amazing advent boxes. I love them. I've gotten them for the last couple of years. They're only 12 days. They're not a full 24-day advent. Beautifully curated. Just a perfect mix of different and interesting accessories and stitch markers and tools and yarns, and like really nice and really fun to open it every day. Anyway, on the last day of the advent calendar was this fantastic pine and lily, I can't remember what this is called, bulky, Oakley bulky, I think, something like that. And it was a gradient, so it was like 4 or 5 mini skeins that went from this red color to here, to here, to here, to here. So this is a gradient. Now, this is my own pattern. I decided to make a hat. In the advent box, it said that they were going to do a pattern, and it was going to come out probably in January. I waited and waited, and I didn't see it, and I didn't know where it was, and I thought, I'll just make my own. And I looked, or, you know, I thought, I'll find a different pattern. I looked, couldn't find anything I liked, and so I thought, well, I'll just design my own. It's a hat. How hard could it be? Well, it wasn't hard at all. So I picked this pattern that's got really cool texture. You see that? Again, it's a kind of slip stitch. So you knit on this one, I think 2 or 3. You knit 3 stitches, you slip 1. Knit 3, slip 1. You do that for a few rounds. So you're slipping the same stitch a few rounds around, and then you're taking that stitch on the 4th round and moving it across 3 stitches so that it stretches way over. I can actually put my finger in behind there. See? Woo! Which gives it this really cool kind of woven texture. I've called this one the Dreamweaver Hat. I have a page of notes that I wrote down while I was knitting it, thank goodness. And oh, here it is. And it could definitely become a pattern fairly quickly. There's my note page. And I think it should. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And this pom-pom on the top, how perfect is that? This is from Yarn Boler. Yarn Boler is a pom-pom maker in the Vancouver area. They make beautiful pom-poms. The grocery girls in Edmonton also sell their pom-poms. And they're just, look at this, like, look at that black, little bits of black and the fluffy tips. Like, they do all kinds of sizes and shades, and they're lovely. Anyway, I got this somewhere, I can't remember where, but it was perfect to put on the top of this hat. So there we are, Dreamweaver hat with a Yarn Boler. This could quite easily be written up. I put a note on this 15th of January 2023, so this could happen, and this could be maybe even like a free pattern or something, because it's pretty, you know, pretty straightforward. Not that big a deal. It would look really nice whether you did it in a gradient or in even a bulky solid, because the texture is interesting enough to give it some life. Now, I have another hat, but before I do that, I want to talk about this other design that I did, not this year, but the year before. I don't have it, so, nope, this side. Here it is. It's over here. That's the finished piece. It's a throw. I call it the window glass throw. And the reason I call it the window glass throw is it was inspired by He Who Shall Not Be Named's sister, who lives in Toronto, and we were visiting her a few years ago, and she had this incredible stained glass piece in her kitchen window. Isn't that beautiful? So I love everything about it. I love the graphic nature of it. It's got kind of a Mondrian feel, that artist who does, you know, the squares and the black lines in between. The textures, there's all kinds of different textures of glass. Some of it's a bit opaque, others are transparent and clear, and others have like actual print texture in them. Very cool. As soon as I saw it, I thought this could be a throw. So, and I thought I could make it for my lovely sister-in-law for a gift. And so I came home, and here's all the yarns I used. You can see there are a variety. I was going for the colors. I was trying to get the colors all in the same weight. Well, there's no way I was getting all that out of one brand. So I had to look at a bunch of different brands, and I did want different textures. So some of these are fuzzy texture. They're mostly either merino or merino alpaca blends. Some just wool alpaca, but so some are kind of fuzzy, and some are flat, and some are tweed with little flecks. So there's a lot of different texture in there. It was really fun picking out the yarn. Some are nubbly, some are smooth. And I created a chart in Stitchmastery. So here's the chart that I used. The chart is, oh, that's tiny, 94 stitches across by 188 rows high. And in some places, as you'll see up here, I'm going to show you now. So this is not something that I would write up and suggest that anybody knits in their right mind, because I just did it straight up in Tarja. So you start at the bottom and you work your way up and you do all the colors on the chart as you go across, all the colors, and some rows I had up to 13 different color changes across the row. And you can see how delightfully fun that looks by looking at these photographs. So if I were going to write this up as a pattern, I would do it a different way. I would do it as a modular design. So I would choose somewhere to start and knit one square and then pick up the stitches along an edge and knit a little bit, and then pick up the stitches and knit and pick up the stitches and knit and build out from there, probably even dividing it up into sections and then sewing those sections together just so you could break it up a little bit and it wouldn't get too log cabin looking, where you start in the middle and build out on the sides. So it would take some doing. I'd probably have to get rid of this little bit of interest here, the diagonal line right there. I might have to get rid of that to make it work. There's really no way to knit that well. I shouldn't say there's no way, there probably is a way, but you'd need to do 3 colors across to do that part. Maybe, you know, that could be one element of it. Maybe that could be like the extra credit version of it if you wanted to do the block, or you could just do it as a solid block. Anyway, it would have to be a completely different kind of design if I were going to write it up as a design somebody else might want to knit. So there's that. That would take some work. I can't just take the work I already did and translate it into a written pattern and off I go. That's not going to work. I'd have to rework it, reknit it, and do something different. But it did turn out like really, really cool. I really quite love it. It's beautiful. I would love to have one for myself, but sister-in-law absolutely loves and appreciates the one that she got. So that's good. That makes my heart full and makes me happy. So another project, moving along, that I did that I had to design was a couple of years ago. A friend of mine from work came to me and she had a hat that she had bought years ago at some kind of craft fair. And she loved it so much that it was falling apart. It was like ripped and had holes in it and coming up. This isn't it. It was just, this is like it. Anyway, here's the hat that she brought me, and she asked me to fix it. And then she also asked if I could copy it and knit her another one, because we searched, we couldn't find the pattern, we couldn't find the maker. She didn't have any info on it, didn't know who it was. I hunted up all up and down Ravelry and could not find the pattern. It just didn't seem to exist. So I told her that I would copy it for her. And I call it the Twinch Hat. Here you can see the finished version that I made for her. It's really cute. So this is how it goes. It's a diagonal band. Whoops, keep doing that today. Diagonal band of knitting. So it's on the bias in the round, and then pick up the stitches and knit down to make the brim. And while you're knitting the diagonal band, you're creating some buttonholes, or holes, if you will, close to the top edge. And then you do an I-cord, string it through, and cinch it up to make the top of the hat. Isn't that cute? Cinch it up and tie it. and it makes a really cute little top. What I really like about the brim of this one that I thought was really cool about this was it's wider at the front than it is at the back. So you can have it like sit down on the back of your neck, come down over your head, and it just kind of sits really nicely. And the little cinchy part, you know, sits up on the crown where it should be, but you can still have a nice brim in the front. So it's clever design. For the version that I made, my Baaad, the hat that she had also had a strip of polar fleece sewn in around the brim, on the inside of the brim, which I thought was a great idea because it gives it some extra body, especially when you're knitting a hat. If it's just a plain stockinette brim, it needs something, or it's just a little too flimsy. So it gave it some body, but it also keeps, you know, any itchy wool that you might use in the hats away from your forehead. And I am personally, myself and I are wool sensitive, so I do get itchy when I wear wool hats, even lovely soft merinos. This was just a prototype I knit because I had this yarn on hand and I had to test out the version. I did end up doing the final version a little bit bigger. I actually have most of this pattern written up and ready to go. I just need to knit another sample because I gave her, of course, the one that she commissioned. And so I need to knit a sample and have that ready to go. Anyway, I called it Twinch because it's a twist and a cinch. So it's a Twinch hat. I have not looked up to see if that means anything else. Please don't tell me that means something else. I don't think I could take it. Although I have renamed it like 4 times, so whatever. Okay, I take it back. If Twinch means something that I don't know what it means, please tell me so that I can change the name before I set it in stone and publish a pattern. Anyway, it's really cute. You can see here, it's really cute. And it, again, could be a pretty quick and easy pattern. So there's that one. Oh, what else have I designed? So this is just a fun little thing. This is a little dishcloth I designed because I suddenly had a thing for linen stitch, which is, again, a method of using slip stitches to create an interesting fabric. And linen stitch, I'm going to hold this really close so you can see it. Linen stitch looks like woven fabric instead of knitting, and it doesn't have a lot of stretch to it. See this? It's pretty firm. It's not very stretchy. It's very flat. It has a different look on the back, just kind of a pearly look, a little pebbly look on the back, but it does look very woven on the front. This is a 3-color linen stitch in the middle with a solid border. Now, because I'm crazy and I have to do things the hard way, I decided to work the solid border all in one along with the color work in the center. Look, kids, don't do this. It's not worth it. It's way harder than you think to work this color work as you are working a solid border. You've got all these colors you're juggling back and forth. They have to be on the right side when you're done to make sure you can come back, and it's a thing. And all I really needed to do was, start at the bottom. I'll hold this up a bit higher. Start at the bottom with the solid, knit the solid, do the colorwork section, knit some more solid, and then pick up along the sides and work out, knit the other sides out. All that would happen is that on the back, instead of this having no seam here and here and here, there would be a wee little bit of a seam there, there, and there from me picking up stitches. It's already kind of got a seam from the colors being carried up along here, so it really wouldn't look that different. And it also needs a bigger needle size. This is a little denser than it should be. If I if I went up a needle size from what I used here, I can't remember what I used, probably 4.5. This is Knitpicks Dishie, which is a fantastic dishcloth yarn, by the way. Not that I knit a lot of dishcloths anymore, because I don't. But if you're a beginner and one of the things you're doing are experienced and you love to knit dishcloths, whatever your reason you want to use dishcloth yarn, Knitpicks Dishie is fantastic. In fact, I have knit garments with it for kids that are washable and last, and you know, they're great. So you can use it. You know, it's nice enough. It's a okay, settle down, Nicole. It's a nice enough dishcloth yarn to use for garments. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, thank you. Got that out. Not too much trouble. Maybe I need some martini. I think that's what I need. We'll sit. Okay, we'll sit. There we go. Anyway, I called this Millefiori, which I think means like a bazillion colors or something in Italian, because that's what the 3-color linen stitch reminded me of in the middle. So this could be a pattern. This could be a free pattern. I don't know. It could be a pattern. I don't know why I'm saying everything could be a free pattern. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it has to be a free pattern. Forget I said that. Never mind. Okay, so those are the finished objects that I've done. Now I've got a couple of things to show you that I started designing and abandoned for various reasons. But they could still be something, or they could like morph into something else. But I wanted to give you a feel for what design process is like when you're just making things up, and why, you know, it can take a long time to get to the finished thing that works, that's going to be, that looks really good, that's knittable, that's fun, that's translatable into a pattern, all those sorts of things. Anyway, so this is what I was calling my tiled scarf. And again, yep, you guessed it. Once more, sorry why I keep doing that. Once more, this is Mosaic knitting. So this is slip stitch color work in the center. And I was using this, all got inspired because I got this ball of yarn in a loops kit, and it's a really special and beautiful ball of yarn. And I had pulled up what the brand is. It might be Neighborhood Fiber Company, I can't remember. Anyway, tiled scarf, remember that, and I'll put a link to it down in the show notes, and you can go to my website and see what this yarn is. But it's beautiful, kind of a dark magenta yarn with some black flecks in it. And I didn't like the pattern that came with it. It just wasn't sophisticated enough for my taste, so I thought, well, I'll design something with it, see what I can come up with. And for some reason I got it into my head that I wanted it to be in some kind of scarf. And this isn't a color I wear really. Like, I know I'm a bit of a liar because I've got this really dark purple here, but this is more pink, and I really don't have, oh, okay, a lot. I have one pink thing, but I don't really do pink. No reason, I just don't. So, and I only had one ball. So what's it going to be? It's going to be an accessory, right? I've got one ball. So I started out with this, which is another, this is all garter, another mosaic stitch. And again, like with my Millefiori dishcloth, I was getting fixated on putting the color work in the middle of a plain background and doing it all at the same time. Well, again, this is insane. I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. It's really hard because, you know, you're working, especially with mosaic knitting, because it's kind of got to go, it's got to go back and forth. And anyway, it meant I had to have another, like do intarsia and have another strand of the background yarn on the other side, so that I was kind of knitting it here and then switching over. Anyway, you don't need to know all this right now, but making my life difficult. The proportions of this weren't working for me. The kind of the balance of the mosaic wasn't working for me. I just wasn't feeling it. So then I decided, okay, well, what if it's not garter stitch? What if it's something completely different? What if the outside edge is more interesting? Okay, so then I found this, after hunting and hunting, I found this kind of eyelet looking stitch that I thought was pretty cool. I thought, okay, well, what if I did the, the center pattern? I chose a different pattern that wasn't as busy as this one, a different slip stitch colorwork, and put it in the middle of this field of eyelet stitch. Well, clearly, as you look at this, the proportions aren't right. So I got that far up and I could tell the proportions weren't right. So that had to change. So then we got to this version where we've got better proportions. But again, I'm doing the thing where I've got, like 2 balls of white going and the ball of the pink going as I'm going back and forth across, and trying to keep track of 2 sets of how the eyelet's going to work on the outside of the slip stitch colorwork, and the too complicated, people. Why do I keep doing this? So I had put this away ages ago and hadn't picked it up in quite a while. And then when I picked it back up, I'm like, oh yeah, I was insane. Like, clearly, again, the way to do this was to do the section of the colorwork in the plain field at the bottom, then do the colorwork, do a section of plain field at the end, however long I wanted this, and then come back and pick up along the sides. So that's why even the needle has been pulled out of this. Like, it's done, it's finished. I'm not going any farther with this. It's got to start over from scratch. And I don't know, I'm not jazzed about it. Like, the only reason I was doing this was I was trying to figure out what I could do with this yarn. And this was the best I could do. And I could keep going, and I could spend 11 billion hours trying to make exactly the right thing. And I don't know why. What for? Anyway, there it is. I think I might take this. I mean, this could be a cowl, right? It could be. It might need something. It might need maybe an I-cord edge or just something to give it a bit more life, but I could kind of finish this off and maybe like finish off this end with some more white and then put some buttons on it and do an overlap and put an I-cord edging on it. I could do something with this strip to I'm being strangled, to make it into something. That could happen. So we'll see. It might turn into something yet, but in the meantime, it's going to live in this little mesh bag, and I may never get looked at again. Who knows? But you tell me. You tell me what you think. Do you like it? Do you think it's interesting? I don't know. Now, last thing I want to show you before I'm done, because I really do want to finish under an hour this time. I don't want these podcasts to be so unbearably long that you get sick of me. Was I started designing a sweater. I just started designing a top-down raglan sweater out of this incredible yarn that I got, that was from a collaboration between Bien Aimee and I'm sorry, I'm completely losing it. I thought I was so organized today. Anyway, I'll put a link down below. there's just, I've got this Sonder yarn Grace, which is merino cashmere silk, which is spectacular. I've got this La Bien Aimee merino singles, blended with some gorgeous silk mohair, blended with something with a bit of some sparkle. This was all stuff that came from a kit for a bijou wrap. This bijou mohair silk bijou sparkle. That's this guy, mohair silk bijou sparkle in the colorway Jasper. This is La Bien Aimee as well. And then there's some straight up, like, I think silk mohair blend. This guy, like, these yarns were all designed, not the Sonder, that was from a different thing, but they kind of all work together. Like, look at them, look at them, look at them working together. Like, they're just gorgeous. So I had all this yarn. I wanted to work it up into something. I didn't want to just do the wrap. It was pretty, but it wasn't going to be anything I was going to use. I thought, well, I'll design a sweater. I decided this was the style. I wanted to do a square neck raglan. Quite nice, very nice. Yummy, this is yummy. And I picked a stitch out of Norah Gaughan's Twisted Stitch Sourcebook, which is like an amazing book. Check it out. Get this, link down below. Fantastic. And I got this far, and I looked at it, and I couldn't, the stitch that I chose, first of all, just kind of disappears in all this. If I hold it way up, I can't see what you can see. So you can see it there, right? You can see it's kind of a weavy, kind of spiky, it's called wheat or something, I can't remember. But I didn't get it centered properly. I didn't balance it. So there's, unstitched space over here where the stitches come right up to the raglan on this side. Not okay. Not by me. And the stitch pattern itself just kind of gets lost. I was switching back and forth between, a blend of the sparkle with mohair and the Sonder and the sparkles, which is kind of cool. So you can see the stripy effect. That part was working out okay. The shape was working out okay. That was working out okay, but the stitch wasn't working out. So this needs a do-over with a different stitch, which means I got to sit and swatch a bunch of times to get the stitch that is going to show up in this blend of stuff. I mean, it also could just be a plain knit sweater and let the yarn do the talking. I mean, there is that, right? Sometimes less is more. And maybe I just do a simple cable down the middle. Like, I've got to edit, pare down, edit, right? So this could be something eventually. But this kind of gives you an idea of what goes on in my crazy brain. I start working on something, I go down a rabbit hole, it works or it doesn't, and then, who knows what happens from there. So, chaos. It's all chaos, people. It's chaos. Help me. So there we are. That's what I have for you today. That's an idea of the kind of stuff I have designed, why I designed it, where it's at, why it could be a pattern, might not be a pattern, might be too complicated to be a pattern. Just haven't gotten around to it. Let me know what you think. I want to know. You might be able to help me out with some of this and make it a bit easier. That'd be great. I've had an idea. I've kind of had an epiphany about how I'm going to get focused. I really do want to get focused, and doing this podcast is helping me kind of drill down to focus on the kind of work I want to do and what matters and what I think might be helpful for you too. All of the scattered all over the place isn't doing anything for either of us. So let's get there. I also have some ideas for some tutorials, so that's pretty exciting. I'm going to do those as separate videos from kind of my weekly podcast. So those will be out there. I definitely have a plan to do running markers. You need to know about running markers. We'll do how to do ladder back stranding. That's really important. Anyway, I got a bunch of things. Got a bunch of things to teach you. So there we are. I'm done for the day. I'm going to sit and finish my martini. It's getting kind of late. And yeah, time to go. So Oscar says goodbye. I say goodbye. And I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button. That'd be great. And subscribe if you want to see more. And cheers. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.